Alright, welcome. So I've made 3 separate videos for these generators. This particular video is about this one, the Yamaha EF1000is. Alright, so we'll just get right into it. I'm going to start taking this thing apart, exposing everything that I need to get at, and then as I go along I'll explain, what oil I'm using and why, spark plug I'm using and why, and some of the things that are out of the manual to explain some of that in better depth. And we'll check out the spark arrestor and the air filter and talk about prepping it for storage. So just a regular tune-up, basically, yearly maintenance. I usually try to do every 100 hours, and which it ends up being about once a year and sometimes more. It just depends. But I generally do this in the fall, so in the spring when I grab things, they're just ready to go. I don't have to spend my time getting stuff ready. So on this particular model, it's got something that's kind of, I thought, unique for changing the oil. Well, I'll start right here first of all. Spark plug under there. It's down inside there. Just pull that wire, pull that out. We'll do that last. I always do that last. On the back side here, I've already taken out a few screws. Take out the one remaining to show you. You have spark arrestor. I've already removed the clamp and pulled that out. There's a clamp on there holding that on. This took a bit of finesse to get it off, but mine's actually looking a little bit plugged up, and this thing only has a little over 100 hours on it. It was basically brand new when I acquired it from a friend who had no use for it anymore, and I'll get into some of that. The reason I bring that up is regarding the spark plug that's in it versus what the manual says, and just showing you how much can happen, just after 100 hours. And I've had other models, my Honda in particular, can get a little finicky at about 100 hours, and I change the plug and then it runs right as rain again. So then on the other back side here, you got another panel, and that is where your air filter is and access to your oil dump and refill. So something I was saying that's unique on this particular one that I'm gonna have to look at my Honda again. Maybe I've overlooked something, but down inside here, there's a little rubber deal that if you look on the bottom, you can pry that out. Comes out a little harder than that first time, especially if it's cold out and the rubber's a little stiffer. It's just rubber. And then that snaps or slips over this here. And it works kind of like a little funnel deal. And you can use that for filling and or emptying. I'll probably use this other funnel for filling it up, but take that off, and then you just got to tip it, and we'll do that here real quick. I'm going to do something a little different here than what I just described. I'm going to tilt it back a little bit, crack that loose. This way with a tilted back, it cannot spill. Well, I guess it can, but it shouldn't. Get that cap out of there. Not a drop. I don't know if you can see in there or not, but then I'm going to slip this on over that. Make sure it's all cleaned off and everything. You don't want to be sliding it on there and having grit or gravel go sliding down into your reservoir. So that's on there. It's on there pretty good. And I lower this back down. I can just see the oil at the top of the thread, or at the base of the threads there, which is proper fill. And then I'm going to take this over to the oil pan and just tip it into that. And we'll just give this a little tip here and see how that does. And look at that, just comes right out. That way, I know on my Honda, and again, I'm going to have to look because I can't believe it wouldn't have. Oh, I didn't pull a plug on my pan, but that's all right. I want to see how much oil comes out of here roughly. And I'll pull that plug with a glove on or something after. There's really not that much. I'll let it drip here for a little bit. And I did run it a little bit first also. Warm it up, get the particulates, floating in the oil. So, not too much coming out of there still. Alright. Anyways, and then I'll get that back up there and cleaned up, and we'll fill it back up. Alright, so that thing's pretty slick. I'm really curious about my Honda now. I've had that thing for years, and if I was unaware of that and I've overlooked it, I'm going to feel like an idiot. But that's pretty slick. I'm actually going to leave it on for the refill. Just kind of clean out any residual old oil and make sure there's no debris or anything on there. But pretty simple, and there's not much oil in there. So I'm just going to introduce it slowly, about the same, and then, you know, keep watching the fill level. Oh, I thought that was a little puddle of oil in there. That's just the shape of the deal there. Okay. So, cleaned off my plug, clean that off. I may still stick the funnel in there just to avoid, but man, that sure was nice, because the Honda, I tip it like that as well, and it just still gets down in there. And again, like I said, I'm going to be embarrassed if I find out there's something like that on that. But so I'm using, I use synthetic most often on just about everything I have, just for longevity, and it's a little extra peace of mind. I know years ago I saw a commercial where I think they were, when Mobil 1 first came on the scene, where they had two engines or motors running side by side, and they pulled the drain plugs. One had Mobil 1 synthetic, and the other just had SAE, you know, standard motor oil. And the standard motor oil seized up, and the synthetic just kept on running for quite some time with no oil in it, and that always stuck with me. So that marketing worked. I've never done the test myself, but anyways, so again, I'm using 10W30. The reason for that is when I looked in the owner's manual for this and some of the others as well, I'll clarify that in those videos, but there were a few suggestions of oil you could use, but 10W30 had the widest temperature range spectrum, you know, from below 0 to up to like 100 or whatever. It covered everything, whereas the others are recommended for higher temperature or colder temperature running, and 10W30 covered all of it. So that was kind of a no-brainer, and I had 1030 laying around, so we're going to put some of that in there and see how we do here. And I'll just fill it up, like I said, until I see it get kind of to the bottom of the threads there, and then we'll run it and check it again, you know, once some oil circulates, make sure that it didn't. A lot of times I'll have a cup, with a graduated cup, you know, with measurements on it. Like for the Honda, I believe it's, like I had said, 14 ounces, and I just filled 14, pour it in, check it, and it's right where it needs to be. But this particular one, I should have probably drained it out, because this is a, like I said, this only has just over 100 hours on it. I had never changed the oil in it before. I should have dumped it out into that cup just to see. You know, I know it's not very much, but less than a quart. You can count on that. Let's take a quick peek here, see where we're at. We gotta wait a little bit to go in here. I don't feel like I've put very much in, but I don't want to overfill it either. Yeah, I think just a little bit too much. Not the end of the world. I'll just tip a little bit out of there. Actually, I have a little syringe. I'll just suck some of that out of there until it's where it needs to be. Just grab a syringe here. All right, so that's pretty good. I just dumped a little bit back out into the bottle and just didn't put you through that. There's probably, I don't know, maybe a shot glass amount, 1 ounce, probably took out of there. So now it's right to the bottom of the threads, you know, the furthest in part of the threads. And like I said, after I run it, I'll check it again. I did get a few drips out the bottom with this thing, so I stuffed a paper towel in there, and I would imagine when I take this thing off, it didn't really, it's pretty good. It didn't really drip. But we'll clean that up real good before putting that in. I'm not going to trouble myself with that too much right now. You know, it's not gonna affect the outcome of the other stuff we're gonna do here. So we'll just set that aside on some paper towels, and then we'll move on to the spark plug, and then the spark arrestor and air filter. Well, we're right here. Let's do the air filter. I'm going to put this back in. While we're here, here's the air filter. Squeeze in these two tabs on the side and then kind of work it out of there. This is pretty dang clean because, again, like I said, this thing has just over 100 hours in it. But if you had a really dirty one, plugged up one, dusty one, they recommend washing it off, soap and water, and many different types of oils are recommended. Some just motor oil, just to kind of make it oily, so it traps dust and debris that if it's particulates that are small enough to work their way through the filter, that would be the case. So, but that's pretty straightforward and simple. Or you can just replace it. That's always a good way to go too. Make sure that bottom's on there. There, now it is. All right. So then we'll go around to the spark arrestor on the back side here, or one of the sides, depending on which way you're looking at it. There was a clamp on here. Phillips, loosen it, got to spring it apart a bit to get it to come off. Then I really had to work this back and forth with the pliers to get this off. It came eventually, and then I had to kind of, with a screwdriver, pry these open a little bit to get this out, because that's kind of what you need to address as well as that. I don't know if you can see, but you really can't see through that, so I'm going to take an air compressor to that, blow that out, and then this as well, and I'll blow this way because the exhaust is going this way, so all the particulates are caught on the outside of the screen. You don't want to force them through, and well, I guess it doesn't really matter for this. It's not a filter as much as it is to keep sparks from, you know, flying into your dry grass and stuff and starting a fire. So after cleaning that off, you're going to put that back in like such. Press that back in there. Whoop, yep, and then put the clamp back on, tighten that up. And I will do all of that, but I'm just going to keep moving here just to cover the stuff that you're more interested in, I would imagine, other than watching me do that work, because it's pretty, you know, as long as you see what the goal is and where it is and what you got to do, I'm sure most people appreciate that more than some of the watching me do it part. So we'll go up to the spark plug now. All right, and as I showed earlier, the spark plug is underneath here. You're going to pull your wire off, kind of push that aside out of your way. This is a, what is it, 5/8, I believe? Yeah, 5/8 deep wall socket. Kind of awkward to get in there. Let me get that in there first. There we go. And again, this is pretty new, so I'm not anticipating a lot of resistance getting this thing out of here. Get that off there, and I can just spin it out by hand, I'm sure. Oh, come on. So there you go, some of the trials and tribulations. There we go. So this spark plug that's in here is kind of interesting. Well, it was interesting to me anyways. That should be good. Oh, a couple more turns. There we go. This plug that's in here is a CR6 HSB. I had no success finding one that wasn't astronomically marked up because they were impossible to find. And I checked all the usual places, you know, Napa, Amazon, all that stuff. You can see a little carbon buildup on there. When I checked the owner's manual, it says it's a CR4 HSB. Like I said, I got this pretty much brand new with probably less than 10 hours on it. So the guy that I got it from had, this is what came, you know, when he purchased it. That's what was in there. The interesting part is, because I couldn't find that, I started looking for compatibles. So I found Autolite 4194 was compatible for this. The CR6 HSB. So then, when I saw in the manual that it said CR4 HSB, I looked up what the compatible for that was. Well, Autolite 4194, again. So, again, it's a no-brainer. So I'm going with the Autolite because that's what was available. I do like using NGKs, but I couldn't find that particular one. But we'll put this Autolite in here, and I can't imagine that we'll have any issues with that. They've been in business a long time, and we'll see how she does. So I got half a dozen of those right away because I like to just have them around instead of hunting and fishing for these things, you know, and at a time of need. So just put them on the shelf and be good to go. So kind of got that started by hand a little bit there. Make sure it's not cross-threading. Put on the socket and then we can get it going. So I usually get them kind of, you know, finger tight, hand tight as I can get it, and then give it kind of a, there's a crush washer on there and you'll feel it go and then suddenly, you know, get crushed and then it starts getting harder. And it's usually about a quarter turn because you don't want to overdo it and then crack that plug. So I'm content with that. So put that back on there. Make sure, sometimes you don't feel it click or it doesn't feel like it's seated right, so just, you know, make sure that is. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention that I should is when you're dumping out your oil, always make sure your cap is on tight and that you tighten this, you know, your vent real good so you don't spill gas all over the place, assuming, you know, if you were to have a full tank of gas or something when you started doing this. So, all right, we'll pop this back up on the bench here. All right, so clean the screen out a bit, banging it around a little, blew some air through there. Just putting it back together and then getting it back in there. Actually, you know, it might be easier to put this in first. I might give it a little rubber mallet action just to tap it in there. Nope, no need really. So yeah, I'm going to tap that on just a little bit. I don't want to get too aggressive, but I'll just give it a couple of taps to get it to seat. There you go. And then where did I hide the clip? There it is. There we go. There it is. And then tighten that back up. There we go. Maybe one more little bit. Okay. And then of course when that thing gets hot, it's gonna expand and contract and all these things. Then put your cover back on. There it is. Oh, that clip came off. Not sure how or why, or well, let's put it back on if you can and get it lined up. Looks about right. Okay. So put your 4 screws back in on this side. Easier said than done. Okay, we'll put the other 4 in, and we'll put this back on, this cover back on. So we've addressed the oil, the spark plug, the air filter. Oh, some I did not check on this one. Nope, and nope. This is my fuel line. Does not have an inline fuel filter. It has a screen inside the cap. If you pop the cap off, you see there's a screen in there, and for some, that's all they do. On Honda equipment, they have an inline filter, which when I do that, I will demonstrate. And it's not like the typical lawnmower filter, you know, that you see on like a Briggs & Stratton or something. It's a little stick filter that goes inside the line, and you pop that off, and I feel nothing in there. And I didn't see anything about one when I was looking through the manual. The only thing they referenced was that, but I thought I'd feel anyways. So that's why we didn't talk about a fuel filter on this particular model. So we did the oil change, showed you where that this little doodad is underneath there to put on there, kind of like a little funnel apparatus, which I thought was pretty slick. Refilled that. We'll run it and check that. And we addressed, you know, the air filter, the spark arrestor on the other side, and the spark plug. And now we'll just see if it fires up, and then I'll check the oil level again. Okay, see how we do here. Little choke, put it in the on position, give it a pull. It's a pretty quiet little generator. I use this just to run some shop lights in one of my storage units, and you know, a few smaller tools and stuff in there. But there we go. So I'll let it run for a little bit, and we'll check the oil level. Call it good. Okay. So I could have let it run longer, but you know, sometimes just like to let it circulate a little bit, and I will follow up and check, and it's right there, right where it should be. I don't know, well, you can see that on camera, but right at the bottom of the threads there, or a little above, is fine. And I'll check it again after, you know, when I let it run a little more. It's not going to put you through that. So that's pretty much it for this one. Hopefully that's helpful if you happen to have this particular model, and some of the other stuff I've babbled about that may apply to some of the other models in comparison. And if you have any interest in any of those, I have videos on the Honda, as well as a large Generac 8500. And then there's all kinds of other videos unrelated. Polaris stuff, Alaska stuff, you know, wildlife stuff. If that interests you, check it out. Oh, and something I didn't mention regarding storage. Any of my small engine equipment, chainsaws, generators, lawnmowers, snowblower, anything like that, where I'm filling it up with a can of gas, I always put stabilizer in the fuel. And there are many brands available on the market. That way, if for some reason I don't get back to it before the end of the season, you know, due to logistics, or I can't run it dry, I prefer to run them dry, but I still always run stable in the gas. And then that way I'm good to go. It's never failed me. So you can do that. Check out the other videos. There's lots of other stuff on the channel other than this generator. There's Polaris stuff, wildlife stuff. Just check it out, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.